Bob Huggins and this threatening lawsuit at West Virginia if they don't reinstate his status as head coach for the basketball program. And this is a little over a month after he resigned following the DUI charge, where he was nearly 3 times the legal limit. According to the police report that is out there publicly and has been certainly stated and mentioned several times, the officer tried, according to the report, upwards of 10 times to figure out how Huggins got where he was in Pittsburgh. Tried 10 different times and asked 10 different ways, I believe it was phrased. Do you know where you are, and how did you get here? And the dude thought he was in Columbus. Turns out he's in Pittsburgh. 3 times the legal limit. He's got empty beer cans that apparently they collect recycling, but, guy was drunk, according to police. And this stems after the Cincinnati radio deal, where he used homophobic gay slurs live on the air on that morning show a couple of months ago. West Virginia didn't do very much at all. They reduced his salary by $1 million. They made his contract to where it was year to year, according to the university on their decision. But this was the final straw. Because at what point do you just say, like, hey, we can't just do nothing and continue to expect a different result on the behavior pattern of the guy who represents all of us? I mean, Huggins is a Hall of Famer. We certainly know the win-loss total there, what he means for the university itself, what he's done across college basketball. And now all of a sudden he's pointing back to say, Chad, that it was his wife that sent the resignation text and that this was pushed via the university because it was either they offered a 60-day stay, I believe, in rehab. And instead it was like, no, you're going to resign or we're going to fire you. This is a reaction that I think many of us in reflection would expect from the job that you're working or the state employer that you're working for, right? I don't find that unusual at all with how the path has been told and how we've witnessed this over the last several months with Huggins. And now he's saying that he didn't actually resign and he demands to be reinstated or a lawsuit's coming. I mean, if I'm West Virginia, I say bring it on. And they've doubled down on that, saying they still respect the decision that they made and they hope he gets, healthy.
This legal team from Bob Huggins is top-notch. One of the best you're going to find if, in fact, after the first incident on the radio station with what he said, and they lowered and reduced the contract at that point.
Right.
First off, if there wasn't some sort of morality clause in the first contract that was already in there, and especially if there wasn't one placed in there after that, and after what he said on the radio station in Cincinnati, those guys deserve a raise. And if they're that good, maybe they can successfully sue West Virginia, the university, and get some money for their client and Bob Huggins by claiming that his wife was the one who resigned via text message and he didn't even do it, even though Bob Huggins is quoted in the statement of resignation saying he needs to take some time to get right and go get help and not focus on basketball. This is a wild story.
Well, the statement
is crazy.
The statement alone from him admits that he's resigning.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He's quoted in the statement, but he's saying it's his wife that technically resigned for him or said he was resigning and not him.
So you mentioned earlier
fire him. My thing is I don't understand how he wasn't fired to begin with. They allowed him to resign, and now that's not even good enough.
Well, that shows you the power he has.
The allowed resignation has now become a, no, I didn't resign. I demand to coach this team. This is the work of a lunatic that we're seeing right now, that he's trying to sue the university for this. I don't know why they can't just fire him for cause.
Yeah, he's seeking a correction of a clear breach of his employment agreement with West Virginia University. Again, bizarre, based on he starts today. This was back in June. Today, I submitted a letter to President Gordon Gee and Vice President and Director of Athletics Bryn Baker, informing them of my resignation and intention to retire as men's basketball coach at West Virginia University, effective immediately. I mean, it took you a month to figure out that you didn't actually retire based on that statement?
But then
it was
he
your
said,
wife?
I didn't actually put the letter in. I didn't send the letter. It was my wife that was doing all the official paperwork. And oh, by the way, those lawyers, Mr. Giamatti or whatever his name is, Rocky, my lawyers who have been working with you on the terms of my resignation, that's not real either, because they're now going to sue you because you've
Right.
hired someone else, and I never officially resigned. So those same lawyers you're negotiating with are actually preparing to sue you. Good luck, West Virginia University. This is insane. Pure insanity. And the fact that West Virginia has not come back and just said, then you're fired, shows me they have one of the worst contract writers in the history of college athletics, because there has to be multiple clauses that could fire into effect when you use homophobic slurs on the radio, and then when you go out and get hammered and drive across state and not know what state you're in.
Well,
But remember, Hutton, though, he likes to recycle. That was
Right.
what the daughter says. That
But-
all the empty beer cans, he was just taking that for recycling.
didn't he meet with the team and tell them he was resigning? I also remember that because the players reportedly were in an uproar
The
about
man
this.
got sober.
They
and
were
decided
begging him to
none
stay.
of this was real.
They were
That's
begging him
what's
to
happened.
stay, and now, yeah, you're right.
I think he went off to a facility for a little bit. He got clear-headed, and he said, yeah, I want to keep coaching basketball. I never even turned in my resignation, so now I'm going to sue them.
Well, but West Virginia has doubled back, though. Their response is firm. Notwithstanding any response and in no uncertain terms, the university will not accept Mr. Huggins' revocation of his resignation, nor will it reinstate him as head coach of the men's basketball program. So he's not coming back. But this ask, this wasn't a request as it's being phrased. This is a demand. Reinstate me or get sued. And they're like, no, bring it on. Because you resigned, you spoke to the team, and you told them you're resigning. So it's more than a text message. And they said it was an email, not a text message. Well, just produce the email. But I guess you don't have to, because we already have read the statement, and we know that he met with the team and told them that he was resigning. Bizarre.
I wonder if even his lawyers are ready to fire him at this point.
Why would you want that guy back after that?
Well, they don't.
I know, but I'm saying, like, the request to be reinstated as men's basketball coach, it's like, after threatening a lawsuit if we don't, peace. See ya.
It's like when Dennis Hopper was drunk and stormed into the gym in Hoosiers, and he was yelling at the ref. This is kind of like Bob Huggins coming into that arena and demanding his job back at some point.
Jay Monahan is saying he's getting back to his job as the PGA Tour commissioner effective next Monday. That's the week of the Open. And, he's back on board. Meanwhile, you have Randall Stevenson, who was on the PGA Tour board of directors. He's stepping aside. He's stepping down. Doesn't want that gig anymore based on he has reservations on this agreement between the PGA Tour and the LIV Tour. Of course, Jimmy Dunn is a member of the PGA Tour board of directors. He has been staunchly against the LIV Tour and the forming of this new golf entity that was last year, and it pointed to 9/11 and other things. He has a business, 101st floor, I believe, 104th floor of the South Tower, and lost upwards of 60 friends and coworkers that day. And he's the one that set up the talks between LIV and the PGA Tour to get all this going within a 7-week process, where ultimately Jay Monahan took the fall for having to double back, and rightfully so, after lying to everyone about how they actually felt and the reasons behind why they felt that way. That's more important here. Why they hated the LIV Tour. It wasn't because of some morality clause or an issue that they had for the integrity of the game. No. It was the fact that this day was coming and they saw it, and there was nothing they could do about it, but they wanted all of the sentiment and the loyalty on their side. They've got a PGA Tour board member in Randall Stevenson who's saying, I can't be a part of this anymore. There are 4 members on the board right now.
Hutton, on Friday, we discussed Clay Travis versus Mark Cuban, the Twitter feud from last week. And I talked about how money, the need for money or the desire for more money makes hypocrites out of all of us at one time or another. And I talked about it in reference to Mark Cuban, that Mark Cuban, who stands on the table of human rights and social justice and what's right, refuses to say anything about China. And we all know why, Because the NBA and Mark Cuban, they probably don't need America to be financially successful with their basketball ownership because of the money they make in China. So he's never going to say it because they don't want to be taken off television in China. They don't want to have the marketing deals erased in China. We all know why, but that amount of money makes us all hypocrites, and Mark Cuban is a hypocrite when it comes to that. Kudos to Randall Stevenson, who finally applied the logic of, what's the point of having FU money if you don't occasionally say FU? This guy said, you know what? I don't need this board membership anymore. I disagree with it. I said bad things about it before. I don't agree with partnering with this money. And I'm the former AT&T chairman, and I've got a ton of money. I don't need it. I'm out. We haven't had one professional golfer that talked bad about Saudi Arabia to say that. Has Rory McIlroy retired?
No. But if anything, he was just parroting what Monahan was saying.
I don't blame him for not doing it, but my point is we haven't seen anyone. Now, he doesn't need it. That's the difference. Randall Stevenson.
But
someone has come back and actually talked bad about them and said, you know, I don't agree with this from a moral standpoint, so I'm resigning.
Just on the negotiation alone. And he was not mentioned. There were only 3 people, according to Monahan, who were involved in any of the negotiation with the Saudi-backed Live Tour, and it wasn't Randall Stevenson. It was Jimmy Dunn and I believe Ed Hurley, who's the policy board chairman, who has a background, and a very lucrative one, in negotiating mergers for companies across the business landscape. He's perfect for this. Jimmy Dunn has been a part of this for a long time. And he's the vice chair of the PGA Tour board. He's the one that linked up and started these talks. And then Monahan himself. There was only 3, according to Monahan, that were involved with this and kept it quiet. They haven't officially merged yet. It has not been approved, this agreement. They're on Capitol Hill, I believe, tomorrow. Jimmy Dunn is on, as well as the COO. And I can't remember his name, Chad, but he's the guy one of the 2 that stepped in for Monahan over the last month. He's also there. They've agreed to sit before Congress and answer questions about this. Point being, it's going to happen. And
good for Randall Stevenson.
It's possible that there are more than just Stevenson. And I mean, but also think of it from this angle. The other 2, Flaherty and Mary Meeker, they weren't kept in the loop on this. And right now they're listed as board members for the PGA Tour.
And if they decide to step away, I'll applaud them too and say, good for you.
Yeah.
If that's what you believe, stick with it. I said this on Friday, but Bernie Sanders, I disagree with politically on almost everything. I respect Bernie Sanders because I believe he believes everything he's saying. He's 100% genuine with who he is and what he believes politically. So I can't hate someone like that.
Yeah.
I'll say the same about Randall Stevenson. All of these board members, Jimmy Dunn, the chief amongst them. Now Jimmy Dunn's wanting to be, Mr. Tough Guy now and saying, I'll kill him myself if I find out any one of these guys were involved in it. Whatever, dude. Him, Monahan, and then to a lesser extent, every PGA golfer that just repeated the talking points that Jay Monahan fed them, they all look like loser hypocrites now. The moment this happened. Now, if they wanted to hold that honor in, like a samurai warrior back in the day, then you fall on the sword and retire. They're not going to do that. And I don't blame them for not doing that. But that's the only way to save your honor in this whole thing. If not, you just grin and bear it and say, yeah, I got had. I got fed a bunch of BS by a bunch of rich guys. And those rich guys wanted to get richer. So they decided to team up with the richer guys. And now I'm one of those guys who's also rich, and I'm making the blood money from Saudi Arabia like a lot of other companies and a lot of other sporting entities. So, gotcha, they got me. Sorry, not sorry. That's the message here.
There's a lot of people and companies that will take the blood money, quote unquote, from Saudi.
Absolutely.
What got me with
most of them, though, aren't bad-mouthing Saudi the whole time. They're just taking it.
Well, not just bad-mouthing Saudi. Most of them are not pointing to the group that did and saying, you are anti-American. We fly our flag here. We're going to stand on patriotism and loyalty. And that's exactly what the message was for the first 12 months of this. And then all of a sudden, it was, hey, this is about unity and bringing the sport together. This is for the betterment of golf. It's absolutely not. This was for the betterment of stabilizing what was going down the drain faster than what you expected, and you're not having to answer for the fact that you were flying the flag, and now you've put it away. That's exactly what they've done here.
Yep.
And meanwhile, some of the best guys, Chad, you and I know a handful of them on tour. They're just reacting and regurgitating in this, the car wash of whatever press they were doing or interviews that they granted. They're saying the same things that were coming out of the PGA Tour board and from the commissioner. And now they look in the mirror and think, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And that's why I wasn't expecting Monahan to come back after this health concern. Health concern that took a month.
I thought the health concern was a convenient way to move on,
Yeah.
but apparently not.
I felt a lot like Urban Meyer, and Monahan's back quickly, just like Urban Meyer in all of this.